I was invited to come through D.C. on my way home. So that's what brought me to D.C.
Well, welcome.
But we're doing some good works. I mean, everybody needs to understand their rights as citizens of this country, and know and understand the different terminology that the police uses as far as de-escalation. You know, a lot of people don't understand a lot of these words, and we need to educate the community, and that's what this toolkit is. It's in a rough form. It's a rough draft right now, but through conversation, we're going to get it together, because these conversations about police brutality, they have to happen. They're ugly, they're nasty, but it's the truth. And we need to understand that and know how to, you know, you may have an encounter where you have to know how to de-escalate that situation yourself, because it could save your life. Because that shit can go from zero to a murder real quick. And if we know how to appropriately deal with the police, then both parties can go home. Because at the end of the day, we all want to go home.
Fact.
So, yeah, that toolkit would be very instrumental. And I'm here in D.C. to just get that information out.
Okay.
Because
Spread that word.
Yes, spreading the word, because we need that. We're in a pivoting point where, you know, racial injustice are happening daily. Every day you hear somebody calling the police on a black person because you walk down the street the wrong way.
Getting in the apartment buildings. And
Yeah.
everything.
You know, we need for the police to be held accountable when we have these fatalities. But we also have to step up our game and understand what our rights are and how to facilitate these incidents, and documentation, and just going and complaining. We you know, we need a track record of these cops. You know, every time a fatality happens, the victim is victimized. And there's something else we got to get past that, because this guy just didn't wake up one day and just want to beat on somebody. There may have been a pattern, but the pattern is not seen if you don't file a complaint. Because we need to know, what was this person like 5 years ago? What's their track record? But he's been beating on people's ass for the longest, but you just be so happy that you came out of it unscathed. You don't even think about filing a complaint. So this toolkit will help prosecutors. They help the family members that's still grieving. You know, it's just a helpful tool, and we want to get through it and get it where everybody can have access to it.
Yeah.
So you'll know exactly what's going on.
That's awesome. That's great work. All right. Well, shoot, that's half the interview right there. We've got Valerie Castile. Valerie Castile in the building right now.
Yes.
She's got an organization. I assume you're the founder of the organization, Philando Castile Relief Foundation. I know a lot of people were saying, man, that name is so familiar. And, you know, we all saw just tragedy that was just angering, like just I don't know, the type of rage I think I felt when I saw it, when I watched it, was really it made me feel like, well, man, what can you do? What can you do? What how can you walk around and something like this not happen? And so I'm glad that you could be here with us, Ms. Valerie, today. First off, can you tell us about your son, right? We saw your son in headlines in newspapers. We saw your son. We saw everybody tweeting and talking about your son and hashtagging your son and talking about the outrage of the event. But we saw also that he was very instrumental in his community, and that he was very instrumental within the school that he worked out of. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about your son? Because a lot of times we just get the name, we get the incident, but we don't get the background on who these people are and what they meant to someone, you know, especially mom.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, he was a human being.
Yeah.
Great guy. Absolutely the best brother and son I have never had to defend my son up until now. He's never done anything. I've never had to go to the school because of his behavior, his attendance, or anything like that. I'd go just for a normal parent-teachers conference or whatever. But when when the Jordans came out and got real popular, he, Mama, I need a pair of them shoes. Boy, are you crazy? You need a job. That's what's up. You need a job. And he was 13. And he had been gainfully employed since the age of 13.
Wow.
And he graduated from high school and went right into the school district as a nutrition assistant. And he worked there for until his demise, to his crucifixion. I call it a crucifixion because his hair was a thorn crown, his seatbelt was the cross, and the bullets were the nails.
Wow.
And he was just one of them awesome people. He knew all the kids' name. He knew all their allergies. He's, helped the kids get on, the disabled children get on and off the school bus. He was dedicated to his job. He found his calling through God. God gave him a position, and he worked there for, 13 years until he was crucified by this guy. But he was just an awesome person. He was dedicated to his job, and he loved everybody. You can't learn if you have food on your stomach. He was synonymous for paying for the kids' lunches if they didn't have money to pay for their lunch. He would pay for it out of pocket. I'm not just saying this. This is known in the school because they've seen him do it. And that's something that we do with the foundation as well. We paid off Minneapolis school lunch debt of like $11,000.
Wow.
We paid off St. Paul's school debt in his honor for like $45,000. The high school that he went through, the alumni developed the Philando Castile Memorial Scholarship. We've given 2 young men scholarships and $25,000 each. I mean, these are things that my son held dear to his heart. And this is what his legacy is like now. We are doing things that he held special in his heart because he loved his community, and his community mourned for him daily. It's been 2 years, but it just seemed like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Because he was just that type of guy. He never did anything. I've never had to bail him out of jail. I'm a lie on that one because when they give him tickets, I did have to bail him out. I ain't gonna lie. So, I mean, other than the crap that they brought to him, to our door, But as far as him just basically out there doing something, he wasn't that type of guy.
As a mother, when you got that call, when you found out, like, what was the first thing? Can you recall kind of like the first thing that came to your mind, or, like just your initial thought or feeling when you get that type of news?
Can I say that on air?
Yeah, I mean,
okay. Well, I'm too old to be checked anyway, but I was like, that's a motherfucking lie. My son, this cannot be happening right now. This is not happening to me. Not him. Not him. I mean, you got this guy that you can hardly get a full sentence out of him. He would answer you in as less words as possible.
Right.
And for them to tell me that, it was unreal. It was unreal. We ain't gonna say surreal. It was just unreal. I just could not imagine him. You can ask anybody that know him. It's still unreal. Him, of all, nobody should die like that,
right,
but him. It's just unheard of. I mean, I couldn't believe it, and it's still unbelievable, but I have my faith in God and the spirit of my son, And that's what keeps me motivated and keeps me doing the things that I do and to help people. We help families that lose loved ones by gun violence. I have met over 25 mothers who have lost their children to gun violence as well.
Right.
And we give them a stipend, and we're like a resource for them. If you need grief counseling, we can shift you in that direction. If you having problems with your home, your housing, electricity, at least we can give you some information. And I'm fighting my own battle. I'm grieving every single day,
right.
But God has gave me this torch, and I'm just fulfilling what God has set for me, the path that God has set for me. And my son's spirit is so strong. I mean, he's constantly, things that happen in this world, it navigates, it finds itself going around and ending up with my son. My son, I had said what happened to him was wrong on so many levels.
Absolutely.
I mean, so many levels, and things are happening, and it navigates back around to him, and it just lets you know his spirit is so strong.
Yeah, and I mean, to see what you're doing with the Philando Castile Relief Foundation is incredible.
Yes.
And the fact that you can sit here with us and just and talk about just that give back element after something like that happens, as you said, something so unreal that it's still hard to fathom to this day. Like, to be able to say, I'm going to put together this foundation and I'm going to now give back to other mothers and family members and communities across the country is important. And just arming people with their tools, right? Like knowing your rights, knowing what to do, having that call to action, right? Because as you said earlier, a lot of times we just don't know. We don't know the language. We don't know to complain. And so when we don't complain, or we don't go and file these complaints or say, hey, this happened to me, it goes unchecked, essentially.
Yeah.
And can keep going on and on until something escalates even greater.
Absolutely.
So it's awesome that you're creating a toolkit, as you called it, to help us all understand, better ways to move, but I would ask you as well. I remember when I saw the video. I mean, as you said, your son was very respectful. He wasn't using a lot of words. Like there.
Yeah.
So even with us knowing kind of the language and whatnot, when you look at your son, in the case of your son, he did everything right from what I could see. I mean, I didn't see anything that justified any of that.
Absolutely.
So how do we as people, especially people who just feel like, everything is bad, or everybody in police force is wrong and it's all bad, like, what would you say to them in the case of your son, where everything, for the most part, you check it off, he did it right?
Yeah, yeah.
What do we say when everything is done right and it still goes wrong?
A lot of people ask me that, and once you look at it, I mean, there's nothing I can actually say, But right now, there's so much conversation going on about police brutality. They're aware of the fact that there may be accountability if I do this wrong. If I get it wrong, I might end up going to jail, because it's so much conversation happening now. And that toolkit, that's a part of it as well, holding the police accountable for what they do. Okay. See, you got to come with something else, because I was in fear for my life. It's about dead and stinking right about now. So we're formulating, and the prosecutors and ADAs, they want to know what they can do to make sure that police are held accountable. Okay. So you got to play that by ear and be smart. When you encounter the police, when you see things getting out of hand or escalating, you need to know how to de-escalate that shit. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Put them up over your head. I mean, these are things that you may not want to do. Right. But if you want to survive, you're going to have to do it, because it is what it is.
Now, what about the kids that survive, but they're afraid to come forward and say something? What do you say to them?
I say to you, complain. There has to be a track record, because if you let this guy get away with doing this to you, whatever it is, whatever behavior he displayed, and it was inappropriate in your eyesight, you complain about that, because we need a track record, because people have tendency, I got away with it this time, I'm gonna see if I can take it a step further, I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna do it again until it get to the point where it's getting good to him, so now he gonna do something drastic, and there may be a fatality. So if you think you've been treated badly or poorly, you complain, because we need to have that data. We need to have that, because if it comes up in court, you got this track record that says this is what this officer has been doing for the last 5 years.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like some kids are in fear for their life even before that happens. So sometimes it might be like, yo, you know what? I'm not going to say nothing, because hopefully it won't happen again.
Yeah.
That's why I say that.
Yeah. No. Complain.
Yeah.
We need that track record, because that's the only way. They always say, "Oh well, Officer Friendly, he has never had any infractions or anything, but behind closed door, Officer Friendly been kicking ass, and nobody complained about him."
Yeah.
So we need you to step up and talk to your legislatures. We need these people out, and one thing I do advocate now is to tell our children, you know what's going on in this country. If you want things to get better, you need to become that police officer. You need to become that senator. You need to become that governor. We need to get these people out and bring in some fresh ideas and some new faces and some people that's going to treat us equally.
You're right. Valerie Castile, thank you so much. Thank you again for coming by. And, if anybody wants to be a part or join the movement of your organization, is there any way that we could kind of follow you? Or I know we have the website, PhilandoCastileFoundation.org. Is that kind of the best way to reach out and stay connected?
Yeah, and then we have Philando Castile Relief Foundation on Facebook as well.
Okay.
And I haven't put anything up. Look, girl, I can't do all that technical stuff, but I have to get somebody to do all that for me. But yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you for being able to just stop by and talk to the people in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Shout out to Demont. Is this Demont Pender? He's got a beautiful photo here.
Yes. And I mean, he got some implementations on here.
Yeah.
You may be next.
Mm.
You may be next.
Mm.
Yeah. We just got to inform our communities and teach them how to do these things. Yeah. You may not want to do it, but baby, it's best that you try.
Absolutely.
Do what you can do to eliminate the situation, but you have to.
No, you're right. What's interesting? We just saw The Hate You Give, which is in theaters right now, and that is a lot of the story is built on the premise of the father essentially educating his daughter and his son on how to survive police brutality, and kind of telling them that this is going to happen to me, and when you see it happen to me, this is what I'm going to do, and I want you to do the same, right? Yeah. And when her friend ends up tragically being shot by the police, right? She's trying to tell him what the father had taught her and her brother, but he doesn't follow it. He doesn't really take it seriously, or he's not thinking about it. He's like, nah, I don't gotta do that. Yeah. And then, he ends up dead. But just like you said, I mean, I think giving that education and that education in itself is empowering. Yeah. And even for the young girl, the fact that she was able to get home, she got home that night because what her father said, she did exactly that. And but I think the more we're seeing these types of movies and films where you have those educational tools essentially, right? So it's not just the film showing the tragedy, but also some educational, insightful pieces in there. And, it's interesting. A lot of what you're saying, we saw those parallels in The Hate You Give. So I don't know if you got a chance to see it yet.
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, you
didn't told the movie. I don't want to go see it now.
That was just a little bit.
That's just the beginning part. That's just the beginning part.
But thank you again, Valerie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Angie Ange in the morning.